Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hazmat Guys Nation Roundtable. This is a multimedia platform to bring hazmat response and training tips from hazmat members from around the globe. I'm Bobby Salveson, and I will be acting as the host for the show tonight. And I am joined by other people.
A lot of people.
Mike Monaco, Phil Ambrose, Bob Kosh, and Jason Ambrose on mute. Handling things. I don't know what the hell he's doing.
He's in a tie.
Looks like Bob Koch or something like that.
He looks like he should be calling people, trying to get them to buy stock options in some shitty company.
Yes.
Wolf of Wall Street.
That's exactly what it is. I'm from Sally Mae. I need you to pay your house payment.
So, we don't have anybody on here yet, but I'm sure they're on the way. I think everything's starting to line up. This is like a new venue. We're just trying to sing out for the first time, and it's a little different. Let's see. I'm testing. Everything's starting to line up. This is like a. Uh-oh. You heard me?
Yeah, I heard you.
Okay, that's nice. So we are live. I'm looking at it on the websites and all that stuff, and we are transmitting across the universe. And we have people watching now.
And I'm getting floods of text messages. How the hell do I get on the group?
It's good stuff.
I just put a link on Hazmat Nation, and we'll put it out on Facebook too.
Yeah, we're gonna have to sit there and figure this out.
So people are just going to go to any one of the websites, right? Either the Hazmat Guys or Hazmat Nation to watch it?
Yeah.
You just click on that link, and Google will take them.
All you gotta do is click on it, and now we got second view. All right, so they're starting to figure out how to do it. Mike Kimura just texted, I guess, the group, and we're trying to. I'm just getting at the stuff now, but you know, it's a work in progress. It's gonna be tough, I guess. But either way, we have an action-packed episode for YouTube. The new YouTubers, and we're going to. What is the big one? It's basically we're going to kind of rotate about what the Florida deaths on the highway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of a recent thing, and now if you're watching this other than us, when did that come out? June 1st of 2016.
Yeah, it was last Thursday.
So, for us right now, it's very recent, but. I mean, if you guys are watching this at a later time and date, you guys are catching up to this. But this is a really interesting news story because, well, I mean, do you want to take it? I don't want to give wrong information, but it seems like there was a Porsche car that was going down the road and it just stopped and there was people dead in it.
Yeah, basically what happened, there's all kinds of speculation, which we can get into different things in a few minutes. But basically what happened was here in Florida, just south of Orlando in Kissimmee area, Osceola County, there was a Porsche SUV that was going down the road with what they found out later on was a young mother and her 4-year-old child. Everything that we're going to say is from news media. It's not like privileged information or whatever, so you guys can look it up for more detailed information. But they were going down the road, and they were witnessed, I believe, by a highway patrol officer starting to drift over to the left and slamming into the guardrail. When the highway patrol pulled up behind them to see, what was going on, if they could render any aid, apparently, as they approached the vehicle, and it's still kind of unclear whether they broke out the window or they opened the door, but there are reports that a couple, and again, these are just reports, there's nothing confirmed yet, that a couple of the highway patrol officers started having their eyes were burning, their skin was burning, and they relayed back that there was 2 victims in the car, unsure of life status. One report was that they were obviously dead, who knows. But the whole thing kind of was weird because, you see a vehicle drift off like that and crash, and, first thing that comes to everybody's mind was, did the driver have a medical emergency? Or was there something, a malfunction in the car, brakes went out, steering went out, what have you. So there was a lot of speculation what might have happened. So, unfortunately, and we'll go to this a little more detail. There did end up being 2 victims, a young mother and her 4-year-old daughter. I believe they just posted on the news this evening. So it was a tragic event, and it had the turnpike shut down for several hours, obviously, because you've got an unknown situation, which they deemed to be a hazmat, based off of what the highway patrol officers were saying. So we can kind of start off. I think would be a good way to go is, what would we do as a first responder, the first unit on scene, the first whatever, and just kind of kick it around before, afterwards maybe we can go into a little more detail what all the different speculations are. And again, these are all just speculations. These are different theories. I know when it got posted on the web, there was, well, it's probably this or it's that or it's the other thing. And so they won't know officially until they get the autopsy report, and toxicology report, which could probably still be a couple weeks.
Yeah, I love the Monday morning quarterbacks.
Yeah,
I love them.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do with this is, instead of Monday morning quarterbacking it so much, try to not do that. And what would we do as a first responding unit? What our tactics are, or what we're going to talk about, is in no way reflection of anything that anybody did or didn't do. These are just from our experiences, as me as a first to engine officer, truck officer, or hazmat, what I would do, what I'm thinking, and then hopefully our goal here is to show that if somebody else, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something this involved, but somebody else has a similar situation where a vehicle on the side of the road crashes, it could be just a medical call. But what are some of the other things that we should be thinking about?
I mean, and I don't need to jump in there, but I would be honest with you, I've kind of kept my nose out of this because I know you guys are so, like, Bob, it's in your backyard. Phil, this is like wheelhouse for you. I've been trying to stay out of it so that I can kind of really be on my heels for this one, and I would absolutely be going with the medical call thought, because statistically speaking, that's what's going to happen. It's right. I mean, this is. I mean, I don't know. I could be off, but I'm going to say this is a 1 in a million run. Like, this never happens where there's a legit hazardous materials in a scenario such as this, where you always hear the diabetic, or the guy that was under the influence, the guy that was worked as 74 hours. Okay, fine, but the legit hazmat on the road live,
yeah,
it's so rare, and I'd be surprised if people didn't treat it completely like that. I bet you they would have continued their operations if it wasn't for their feedback of the scenario. Like, if the guy wasn't burning, if the guy didn't have symptoms or something like that, if it was a biological, if it was something that was delayed onset, then would the cops and the firemen have continued their operation as if it was medical, completely abandoning? And I would have done the same thing too.
Sure.
That thought process, because it's not a hazmat run,
Right. And to set the stage a little bit too, where this is in a very remote section of the turnpike between Kissimmee and Fort Pierce. It's a long stretch of nothing. So response time for anybody is 20 plus minutes easy. So, and I talk a little bit more about response and mutual aid and what happened after that. But yeah, so it's just the first initial response is going to be a while. The highway patrol apparently was right there and saw it, or came up shortly thereafter it happened. So
that was according to the news report and disclaimers and all that. We were getting this information, just everything that was on the news, which we all know how good they are with this stuff. And we also, on Hazmat Nation, we reposted one of the videos that showed the vehicle and the scene, which was reminiscent of a classic, ERG 111, 500 feet. We also saw the video of the troopers getting deconned down to their skivvies. Good day to not go to commando. And so those are, it's all, the only facts that we have is that kind of things we saw. But when I first looked at this, and I understand from talking to Bob, it's a fairly, I guess, remote in terms of a hazmat team response. But the first thing it made me think of is when is hazmat ever first in? And I think everybody that's got their face on the screen here, we're all on a hazmat team, we're never first in. I mean, unless you roll across. I mean, it'd be a 1 in a million. Bobby, you're in one of the most populous areas in the country. Are you first in on a hazmat?
Our joke is you can time us on a calendar. You know, and my running joke is anytime a run comes in, I'm like, I'm gonna go take a shower first. I'll be right down in a little while. I'm gonna catch a quick, because I subscribe to where guys say, you don't make up time on the road. That's just silly, dangerous. You make up time in a turnout. But in hazmat, you don't have to race out the door, but that gives us more time to start doing the investigation, start gathering the information. Those first two companies, at least where I work, are going to be requesting us. We are never assigned to a first box, which an alarm that we have is called a box. When we get toned out to go somewhere, it is going to be because somebody's specifically requesting hazmat response. So it's usually we have some background. We can make a phone call on the phone and say, what do you have here? And they'll give me more information than what I have. So I'm kind of in a unique situation. You guys or other people across the country might be running in on the initial calls, something like this, where there are people that are having burning sensations. You go to the mall where there's 15 people down across the threshold. They might say, you know what, start me hazmat right away. Start spinning up. Because, you make a phone call, you push the buttons, and I'm on the road in like 2 minutes. You got to have a full specialist level hazmat response coming in 2 minutes. With some of these counties where there's a multi-county thing, you got to put out the pages. The guys that got to put down what they're doing, respond to the firehouse, get to the firehouse, take the vehicle to wherever the hazmat rig is, meet up, talk about it, and then get going. And then so you can see it can be hours of time before these guys get going, right?
So I think we could all agree that hazmat's never first in, right? Jason, anything different where we're never first in? So then I'll get to my point.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have a specialized unit that does, it's basically a hashtag ambulance, and unless it's a medical call for them, they're not going to be the first ones there. But I want to argue. I'm going to disagree with Bobby for once. I don't think it's a 1 in a million call. I know here in the Midwest, and I saw a lot of the comments on Hazmat Nation. Probably the first 10. Out on Facebook and Twitter were that, rolling meth lab. Everybody, rolling meth lab. That was the big discussion, and now we're starting to get maybe some different data and information coming in. But we, at least in the Midwest, do see those, cars. The law enforcement's pulling them over, and they're cooking inside the car and that sort of stuff. So it's not. I would not say it's a 1 in a million call, at least for us.
Wow.
So if we're not first in, and then Bobby mentioned the wheelhouse area, that means that anybody that's driving around in something with a light bar on top, even if it was just the troopers, we do have that responsibility to consider that rescue consideration. And I'm going to talk in general because Monday morning quarterback is not the intention for this call. But you start to, but what we can do from this call is really have a discussion of that gray area and go, hey, if this is a 1 in a million call, we the 4 or 5 of us in this room don't know exactly what happened and how it went down. But hey, if we had the same thing happen to us, how would we? And so that was one of the things I hope we could go through is not say what it was, but go through potential scenarios and look at what our PPE, what we have right now. Heck, even the trooper. In terms of rolled up windows, driving up to do recon. What do we have that we could have taken a little more better look at the situation with hazmat being over an hour out?
Yeah, that's a good question. And real quick before we jump into to different. Oh, that's awesome. one of the things that we need to jump into real quick, Bobby, there's a bunch of people texting saying they're waiting for the invite to go through. Just FYI. Everybody goes through some types of operational training, or should be going through operational training. I know the fire guys do. The cops go through a very basic operational training. I don't even think they call it operations, but I think what Phil nailed it. It all goes back to the training, and what are you going to do? What should you do? We're in the kind of weird situation where we do hazmat, and that's, it's kind of in our forefront of our thinking. But, I think our whole thing comes back to the basics of training. Sizing up the scene. What do you got? What are you doing? What do you need? And those three things can really help guide you, I think, in the right direction.
Yeah. Even something as simple as like uphill, upwind, upstate, that whole thing is a basic thing. And I don't know which way the winds were blowing, if they did this or didn't do this. Again, like I said, I mean, at least where I work, we do not see. Well, I'm not going to say we don't see, but if there's going to be one to be seen, I would see it. And I'm going to say that I have only seen 2 legit meth labs in New York City so far.
Wow.
Let's go so we can kind of skirt around the Monday morning quarterbacking. So, I don't know, first in on a highway like that, if it was a first in car fire, it'd probably have some really good time to get going. So I'm sure those troopers out there, I know here in California on the remote stretches of highway, the California Highway Patrol, when it comes to something out in their crib, they've got a long response time. And if he's on here, if he made it on Oscar Robles from the Heat team, I think he told me their first in is they've got 20, 30-minute response times to highway accidents. So, but had you been rolling up, any one of us in the room on an engine and that was a loom up, what would you do?
Me as a first due company officer, I'm going to be looking at, first thing I'm going to do is block the traffic to protect my guys. That's first and foremost. It's my safety before anybody else's, as far as I'm concerned. But how many times have we pulled up on this incident, and it's somebody passed out behind the wheel because they're drunk, or they fell asleep because they're driving, a long time, and we get complacent. So I guess for me, as the officers, to try to remain non-complacent, if there's such a term, and try to approach it and see what I can see before I even come up to it would be my first, I guess my second action after I block the road and protect my guys.
Right.
I'll take the same call. You got a loom up and you got a trooper running up saying, I got my hands burned. Help me out. What are you doing, Bobby?
First thing I'm going to do is basically get him away from where he is. Monitor the air conditions as far as the wind. I'm going to immediately because it's going to be something that's an emergency, I'm going to do a dilution as a solution. Now, I'm not a big fan of the dilution is the solution kind of thing in every situation, but we got to put people, and fix this guy's hands, then I'm going to make him very cold very quick. So I'm going to be throwing an awful lot of water on this guy. Just to start the process and give me some time to start thinking. The car, immediately I'm going to probably play some chocks. As silly and stupid as that sounds, chocks are going to be kind of a big deal because I don't know the capacity of the people inside, and all they got to do is throw their foot on the thing, and we might have 10 more victims now. So I'm probably going to put a chock there, or if I can't even get close enough, I might just have an engine or something like that, give it the front bump so it's pointing into the guardrail. You understand, creatively impacting that vehicle. We have rigs that they're not museum pieces. They're operational rigs, and we can scratch them. It's okay. Somebody will pay for the paint at some point in the future. And then pretty much what I'm going to probably do is I'm going to order the immediate ventilation of all the windows. I'm gonna start on the windward side, which is where the wind comes from, because I always forget which is the leeward and the windward. I'm gonna go on the wind side where it's coming from and start venting towards where the wind is going. So, and if it's unlikely enough to be the windshield is on the downwind side, then I'll just take the two front windows and leave. The windshield is always a pain in the ass to take out, so just leave it. Take the passenger and driver's side; it'll vent just as good, and we can start understanding what's going on here.
Right.
Is that the answer?
Yeah, and we have a former cop in the room, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We admit it.
He's
Yeah,
dressed like a
I'll admit
detective
it.
right now.
I feel like I'm either that or it's a job interview.
No, I actually had to testify today, so I had the suit coat on.
Nice. It's very nice.
So, there's something you would do approaching a car, Jason, that's completely different than any of us in the room would even. We watch it on TV, but you got a whole different thought process approaching a car, I imagine.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, you know, they teach you this thing. There's a technique called stops, and they go in and you're essentially, you know, avoiding the eye contact with the driver if they can see you in the mirror. You can see them in the mirror, they can see you, that sort of thing. But you know, I try to put myself in as that highway patrolman. What am I going to do? And I'm with you guys. I mean, I'm probably going to ventilate if it takes my breath away, then I'm going to try to probably escape. But you know, I'd hate to think that I was in that situation where you got an adult driver and you see a passenger, you know, child in the passenger seat. I don't know what I would do. I mean, I would certainly make the effort to try to get in there. It sounds like there were 3 guys that probably did and suffered some consequences for that. So, like you said, I don't want to Monday morning quarterback what they did, because I'm sure that just as if any of us were there, I mean, they did what we would do. We would do what they did. So, you know, I think that there are so many unknowns, and obviously law enforcement is their mindset is completely different. They are thinking, you know, what are the dangers? Just like Bob said, you know, you're worried about getting hit and run over and all that sort of stuff. But then you're approaching this car. You know, my first thoughts is she drunk or is it diabetic? You know, those are kind of the first 2 things that they're always out there. Those are probably the most common things that you're going to run into. Anymore, I mean, we're seeing a lot of heroin overdoses, and the new thing is they're driving to public places, so they'll be found if they overdose too far or whatever, just aside from getting high. So those are kind of probably the first and most typical mindsets, you know, and then you go to officer safety. But I'm with you. I mean, I think ventilating, I wouldn't be surprised if those guys didn't try to break the windows out or something.
Well, you know, and looking at it too from let's play that hat of the first due engine gets a call. You know, let's go back a little bit. They get a call from PD. They're on the scene of a SUV up against a guardrail with 2 victims in the car. One officer complains of burning of the skin and face. Again, this has not been confirmed. This is just some things that are talked about in the media. And luckily they're okay. They were released from the hospital. So you get that information from dispatch while you're en route. Me as a first due engine company, not because I'm a hazmat guy, I would automatically be calling for hazmat right off the bat just to get them going, because I know it's such a remote area. With that being said, again, going back to the at least in Florida, fire standards, the fire academy, everybody's taught at operational level. You know, operational level is bunker gear, SCBA, go on and check stuff out, you know, as soon as you pull up. That's something that I have in the back of my mind. Now, maybe I have it in the back of my mind a little bit more because I'm a hazmat guy, but if anybody is complaining of skin irritation, or more importantly, multiple people are complaining of this, that's a clue. That's one of those things that are part of your size up that you need to start considering. So, I would probably have one of my guys or 2 of my guys, depending on what kind. You know, when I started in a county department 20-something years ago, we had engine couples. You know, it was 2 guys on an engine company. So it's, you know, me and one other guy doing it, and there's a lot of departments still like that. So you got to, do what you can. That may mean one guy going and doing it, and don't forget, as soon as you pull up, you've got an officer that you got to take care of as well. That's complaining of stuff. So he's got to be gross decon. So there's a lot of things happening at once, and it's kind of crazy, or it can be crazy. It can be overwhelming too. Put yourself in a position of a guy that's a brand new lieutenant. That's when that kind of stuff happens. First day on the job as a boss, and then boom, here comes this. This is what they make tests out of.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, I keep coming back to, and I've heard the reports that it might have been carbon monoxide.
Yeah, there's reports of carbon monoxide. There's reports of freon. There's reports of a battery, and this is something I didn't even know. The battery in this Porsche, it was a Cheyenne, I think it's called, SUV. Cheyenne.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, I like that. But this SUV where they put this battery underneath of the driver's seat, I've never even heard of that before. So now you've got another potential hazard. Was the battery? They have the little vent tubes. Was it something that the vent tube come loose that now they're breathing in these toxic fumes, cause them to pass out, hit the guardrail? Could explain some of the burning to the cops. Or was she at a store and had stuff in the back seat that mixed or spilled? Or there's so many different avenues and rabbit holes you could go down with this stuff. But it's a thinking scenario. Is what it is.
And let me ask a question. Do you guys know if it was a hybrid?
I do not know.
And the reason I asked that, we have 2 hybrids in our fleet. They're Ford
Escape 2 hybrids. Porsches?
I wish. No.
Wow.
Ford Escape hybrids. And the battery cells run underneath essentially the back seat, and they're SUVs, so they like the trunk, if you will. But one of the mechanics at the Ford dealership told me that essentially is 150 D-cell batteries, and they've got to get air, and there's actually and you've got to keep there's a vent, a louvered vent in the side of the back of the trunk area, and you've got to keep the air, you got to keep that vent open or they'll overheat, and then the batteries that can leak and cause a fire and all kinds of problems. So I was just curious if we knew if it was a hybrid at all.
I do not know, and what I'm trying to show, if I can get it to work, is a picture of this thing.
We're gonna go down that rabbit hole of all the possibilities, all the theory, which we know we weren't there, we weren't investigating. In fact, if anything had to do with that Porsche, I would bet that an engineer from Germany would be on a plane, going out there to verify, confirm, or deny anything involved with that car. I guarantee it. I'm sure any county's going to do that.
I don't think we're really trying to do that. I mean, we're just giving a generic situation that's kind of like paraphrasing it, and how would we handle it? I'm only using the skeleton of this incident. Even fictionalized is an interesting idea.
Then let's go with any and all possibilities. And what would be the most absolute dangerous thing? And I know, and maybe Jason can confirm, only in the movies do the cops count bullets, right? The threat is neutralized, meaning dead, until they, in fact, neutralized dead in cuffs before they figure
stop
that.
the threat.
So in our hazmat world, excuse me, in our hazmat world, we talk often about a leak that is continuous, that mainline pipe, versus, say, a small helium cylinder for a chem suicide or something in an enclosed space. So knowing that, since it's a car, I guess I could say that this battery theory, maybe there was a ongoing generated source. What are the other absolute way out there? I mean, from, I don't know, she picked up a bottle of laughing gas. Okay, WMD.
Right? I mean, because I'm thinking about what's going to produce the sensation of burning hands. Now, I'm thinking acids, acid atmospheres, WMDs, something that's going to be a sensitizer, right? You're not going to get it on I'm not going to say, you know, it's very hard to say you're not going to, as a specific and a definite, but typically, you know, the chemical asphyxiants, you're not going to find it, right? You're not going to get that sensation because you're dead before you even, oh, what does that taste like? It tastes like bitter, and the guy dies. Right? You know, that, I'll get the next guy, get Jimmy in here. He's going to, what is it? Okay. Yeah, so we can go down this line forever, but that's why that battery thing, though, as unlike, well, I'm not going to say it's even unlikely. If it was in my fictional scenario in my head, that's plausible. Unless this lady was making WMDs, and I'm sure there's a million other things that are possibilities, but we're not going to know for sure until we literally suck a bag of that atmosphere out of there and put it into a zip, and then definitively test this in lab settings. And we're not, you know, I mean, you can suck it out of the seats or the glove box or whatever it might be, and send it off to a laboratory for that kind of testing. But I'm going to even say even field testing in you know, with the metering technology that we have with the you know, what the hell is it called? I'm blanking on the freaking stuff. GCMS, the you know, mass spectroscopy, even the hybrid spec is going to be hard to find. We use colorimetric tubing. Good luck on that because it'll tell you, but you're going to have to blow about 65 tubes to maybe find one. And that's if everything on my rig, I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but the colorimetric tubes on my rig are like 2.5 years out of date.
Yeah, ours too.
Don't tell the state.
What? Don't say
Hey,
that.
did you guys notice that the chat room thing is working? I finally clicked on it. The Q&A.
Yeah.
Okay, we got some good stuff going on there. Thanks, Derek, Bob.
Oh, that's where everything is. I'm looking at the
Yeah,
chat.
that's where it is.
Everybody.
Oh,
Sorry,
I'm such a
it's
jerk.
different. We're getting used to it. Good to see everybody here. And Todd Burton threw up their fentanyl, which is a very good.
I'm talking to somebody on the side, and they're like, "Why aren't you recording?" I'm like, I don't see anything because I'm in the room.
Yeah. So click on that thing. So sorry to interrupt, but.
Oh man, I'm sorry, guys.
And a lot of vehicles had a battery under the seat. If anybody was a kid in a VW Beetle, back seat and sit down too hard with a shock. Are you guys getting feedback?
Yeah, a little bit further.
Oh my God, that's funny. I'm sorry about that.
If you guys want to see what the battery in the area is, I can't get the picture to come up, unfortunately, but go to www.pelicanparts.com, type in the Porsche, and you can see what we're talking about right underneath the driver's seat. It's a 12-volt battery. It's got a cover over top of it, and it's right underneath the driver's seat.
Huh.
So,
and one person here has one of the basics that we have to cover, that it's full PPE and SCBA no matter what, because that's the basic.
yep.
I mean, and I've heard, well, you know, listen, it's outside. It's an exterior, which whatever you want to say, it's double your background, whatever your threshold is for action, whatever. Either way, it's an unknown. We're definitely wearing SCBA. We're definitely wearing gloves, and we're definitely wearing our full PPE, collars, hoods, flaps, chin straps, the whole deal.
And Bobby, that's for who? The first responder operational, the hazmat team? Just let me paint the picture.
Everybody. I mean,
First two guys.
So
Yeah.
what's going to be the difference between the hazmat specialist approaching the car and anybody else? You describe for me the difference. What do they got?
I like it. All right, so if I was, all right, let's, if I'm an awareness level, which is probably not going to be in the purview of the fire department, EMS, and police, because once you get on the rig, you're now, well, I don't want to say you're definitely operations, but you typically are. Awareness level is, I have a problem, call 911. That's it. Operations level is now where we're saying, okay, I'm coming in on a rig to handle what somebody called 911 for, and it's in a defensive operation only. And this is a nationwide standard. So they're going to do basic stuff. So if we do that, then we get to technician level. I'm not even getting to incident commander. If we get into the technician level, now we're actually going to be breaking the windows, doing the sampling maybe, but we can make those affect those grabs. I mean, the grabs by pulling the people out at the operation level. Would you guys agree with that? Operation level guys with a weighed out risk versus reward benefit would actually be able to reach in there and drag some people out, understanding the consequences.
We don't know yet how many bullets they counted, so we're not second guessing that. We don't know the whole story, what was going on with this. If somebody came up and said, it's a woman with a gun or something, so we don't know that. But you just described the same gear, but what was the difference?
The difference is honestly the training and the aggressiveness. So the difference between the defensive versus the offensive is the difference between operations versus technician. The technician guys are going to go in and actually handle stuff. Operation guys are set up defensively, but knowing the risks versus rewards and knowing that it's a time distance fielding type thing, they can go in there and pull some people out if that's deemed, right? That's how I've always done it. No?
I agree.
Yeah.
With the addition, maybe a meter.
Yeah, right, of course. But even like, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds with this one, but even operations, technically, metering is an offensive operation, and technically it's a technical level thing. Now, where a lot of operations guys get into the metering, specifically carbon monoxide, is because the AHJ, the authority having jurisdiction, says, yeah, that's what we're doing for operations guys. So they carry the meters. And whatever the AHJ says we're going to do, we do. But the AHJ is the guy holding the hot potato. So whatever SOPs are operated on any scene, the AHJ is signing off on those SOGs, SOPs, whatever the hell you call them. Does that make? Did I just go off into a whole tangent there?
No.
It's a very legalese thing where the AHJ is either in alignment with NFPA or in disagreement. But if shit goes bad, then the AHJ better have a good reason why they were doing what they were doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, L stands for liability.
Big. But it's done on a regular basis. I mean, in my fire departments, every fire department around me, everybody in the operations level does carbon monoxide monitoring at a operations level. It is a technician level thing, but the AHJs, all of them say we're doing it because we're training our guys to do it, and I say they can do it. Fine. So.
And here's something too to consider. So you've got the door open, the window broken out. They could be dead. They may not be dead. What do you do? I mean, you're 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour from that response. I mean, you got 2 guys, 3 guys possibly that are complaining of burns and everything. I hate to say it, but what's your first reaction? To get some water on the cops that are burning, or to try and see what's going on inside the car? Or do you do both? Some people have the manpower that can do both. It's a tough decision somebody had or has to make, especially if you've got limited manpower.
Good, Phil.
Somebody's got a barking dog. I don't think it's me, though.
No.
Not me.
Yeah, and on that line, because we did see, I mentioned earlier, I could only go off of what I saw in pictures, which is, what's the saying, I believe, half of what you hear and none of what you see, or something like that. But I did see cops, because somebody posted some pictures, making fun of them getting deconned, which, hey, whoever made the decision to decon them, good job. I mean, that's what we do. And they showed a couple pictures on the interweb that shows the cops getting deconned, and those deconning them looked like they're wearing SCBA while the car was in the background. My guess is my assumption, which you know what that means, is that maybe they had made that decision already that there was no rescue, there was nothing viable. And that's what keeps going through my head, is that somebody... There's information we don't have that they already decided they were non-viable, but I think everything we're running around, I still haven't heard, other than that 6-shooter with one round still in the chamber, I still haven't found anything that wouldn't have been you wouldn't have been approachable with a SCBA and turnouts. I still haven't heard anything that should have turned anybody back. But
that brings up a good point. Yeah, let's think about these vehicles for a second. We're not dealing with a box truck. We're not dealing with a tractor trailer. We're not dealing with a chemical trailer. Something that we need to go in level A suits. We're talking about a passenger vehicle that, at the worst, they went to Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever your store is, home improvement store, got a bunch of stuff, and maybe it mixed in the back, and that's it. At the most. Right there's nothing there that is going to impede you from going up and bunker gear an SCBA. Just my 2 cents. When we're talking, and we talked about this a while back, the thing to level A all the way just quite honestly pisses me off because there's such a mentality out there that a lot of people think that, and how long does it take to get in a level A suit versus getting bunker gear in SCBA and go do something? It's a tremendous amount of time. Then you couple that with your response time, now you're looking 45 minutes to an hour or even longer. That bunker gear in SCBA is being put on while you're en route. Somebody could go up, even if it's just a two-man engine company or whatever. One guy's taking care of, whoever called 911 that might be signs and symptoms, and the other one's, checking out the scene.
Well, let's throw this on the table. What meters?
5 gas PID. Just like the. So let's back up for just a second. So we'll talk about meters. So now we got a hazmat team coming. This agency doesn't have a hazmat team. I know they're getting one. They had to call for a neighboring hazmat team. I don't know how long their response time was. But I would, just like any unknown, what are you going to bring up? You're going to bring up 4 or 5 gas with a PID. You're going to bring up pH paper. And then the other thing you're supposed to bring up is rad. That's your typical unknown scenario. Now, in this situation, do you really need rad? Probably not. But I would at least bring up the first 2. Multi-gas and pH paper. One wetted, one not wetted.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is you said the wetted and not wetted. There are, depending on the model and make of your pH paper, some do work and some don't work dry. I just found that out. I thought, because I assumed ours works dry and wet, and it seems that some people are like, no, mine doesn't work like that. Like, oh shit. I've been telling people that. What do you guys got? What would you talk about? What would you talk about?
Well, I'm getting a lot of feedback here.
Okay, so Jason then.
Try that again.
Anything? Meters?
Bueller.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Are we talking about meters? Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement. The thing is though, you talked about rad, and I think that's one of that gets probably forgotten. I would hate to say, but because not everybody is thinking that. Oh, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Well, it could. I mean, there's a lot of medical stuff floating out there that it could be. So I don't know, but I use 5 gas PID definitely. The one thing, and I like what Bob's saying with the flash protection, because that's kind of the unknown. But bringing your information in from the law enforcement officers that were up in the car. Splash protection is not an issue. They didn't see anything in the car. There was not the chem suicide overflow bucket sort of stuff. So logic is, and that's what, when we talk hazmat and when we talk training, sometimes I tell the guys, hey, 2 plus 2 is not 17.
Right.
2 plus 2 is 4, and if there's no splash, then don't worry about splash, and we'll worry about flash protection instead. And if it's a vapor issue, we know it's chlorine, then it's a level A. So I think you've got to do what I call the simple math of hazmat.
Yeah, and something too. Another quick way of getting a quick read possibly is you're deconning whoever's there. Do a quick swipe of pH paper on their gear, their clothes, their whatever. run a meter on them real quick. You might get something off of that. You might not, but, something that you can try real quick to get something down and dirty going.
That's there's been some great comments on the side, including several that say we get heavy feedback, which is why I keep muting mine. I've been getting feedback, so sorry everybody. But I like my eyeballs. I agree with everything on that. But even as a hazmat team, if I rolled up and my guys were getting ready, I would want to have better eyes on it. We carry binoculars. There's air-conditioned, sealed vehicles to get a little closer. I'm personally just not a huge fan of the rule of thumb. Whoever came up with it, it was a good thing for a good DOT constant source type of accident, but I don't see this as one of those. And maybe I'm a little cavalier after years of riding in the seat doing hazmat stuff. But if that car, we started out, if the car was on fire, there'd be plenty of people that'd be walking right up to it,
right.
Even getting singed. So I'm still trying to look at what would have been the worst case. We don't know everything, and I'm definitely not going to question that because I think there's probably some very heroic actions on that scene that we are just not, say, privy to, and some tough decisions that were made. Because I'm sure it was one person that said, no, we're going to do it this way, and had darn good reason. And I'm totally good with that. But like we said from the beginning, how to look at this. And another thing that came up with that Todd Burton mentioned is firefighter turnouts. They're outstanding. Are they 1991 compliant? Bueller?
True. Yeah.
By technical, by the book, if we were going to do this librarian style, no, right? They're not technically rated. But would I feel comfortable in firefighter turnouts? Maybe I can say that because I know what it's like wearing the hazmat stuff. But I think that a lot of calls that we go on in hazmat, we show up with the learning and the extra equipment, but then what do we put on? We put on firefighter turnouts. So it's just something to consider, and it's tough because you're teaching some. This is. I hope this ends up being thought-provoking overall, because I remember the first time as a rookie firefighter, we're going on a car fire after an EMS call, and it was persons trapped. And here I am trying to get from my station pants into my turnout pants in a small rig at 3 a.m. And I'm fiddling around with that. The senior fireman got right out and barely threw his coat on, goes in with his BA and starts going in for the rescue. And who was safer? Well, he was probably safer. I was probably safer equipment wise, but the rescue wouldn't have happened if he hadn't have been quicker to the draw. So, but that's a tough one. That's a tough one to teach down the line. So it's all with experience. So I just hope everybody kind of takes a look at this and says, hey, what if? Because the last thing we want to see is anyone, a trooper, a Caltrans or a Florida Trans or a Indiana Trans worker sticking his nose into something and passing out. That's not something I would ever want to see. But looking at this and seeing the worst case scenarios and what you can do, I think is important to discuss.
Yeah, and I think the overall thing that hopefully everybody will come out for this is, your bunker gear and SCBA goes a long way. When you size up the situation, you've got a car that went up against a guardrail, unknown cause. Cop says that he's got a little burning sensation going on. I personally would have no problem doing the bunker gear and SCBA.
Oh, I wouldn't either. That'd be my move.
Yep. So, I know we're getting close to wrapping up, but we got about 5 or so more minutes to talk about a propane call.
Sure, I'm in. I love propane.
Anyway, so real quick.
That's it, just like that. We go to propane.
We're switching. We're switching just that quick.
That's the change gears. I can't wait to get toxicology reports, and
it's going to be awesome.
That was on that call. That's either way, it's going to be a career call because it was unusual. I think we can all admit that doesn't happen every day in any way, shape, or form. And just the fact that 5 knuckleheads are talking about it and their call, and if they're watching this, it's like, hey, you guys don't know, you weren't there. So I completely respect that. And I can't wait to find out more information and then that everybody learns from it. Now propane.
Now propane. I'm going to share something real quick. Hopefully, we'll see if this works. This is one of the things that we were hoping for. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Awesome. I want to thank, and I know he's on here, Derek Shawman from Orlando Fire Department. He wrote this up. Nice little article on a call they had just a couple of days ago. But just to give you a real quick background, they got called out. Let me get to the tank. They got called out to a propane tank that was underground. Here's a good picture of it. It had been underground for about 25 years. The homeowner had no idea. When they were doing some excavation, they ripped the valves off. Obviously, they had a leak, so they called the fire department. When they got there, what they were able to do was take one of the expanding clamps into the half-inch opening and expand it open. These are clamps that you can get from your gas company or what have you. Basically, it's a rubber grommet on one end and a butterfly, and as you open it, it expands out, stops a leak. We used a lot of them in '04 when we had all the hurricanes come through here. As a matter of fact, when we ran out, we were shoving branches in the end of broken gas lines. But what they did was they were able to stop that one leak, and then they tried to flare it off. And I'm kind of skipping through some of the process here, but you can see where they've attached their flare-off kit up here. They're flaring it off. But what they started finding out was as they were flaring it, they were having it was basically auto-refrigerating, so the flare slowed down dramatically. Derek, who is one of the hazmat lieutenants, made an awesome call of having the excavation team dig a trench next to it so that they could inject water into the trench. Not so much the tank yet, that came later, but into the trench so that it would the water from the engine actually warmed up and stop that auto refrigeration process so that they were able to increase the flare off, which was an awesome idea. It was a great job. Once they got that and they were able to see from burning it off, the water in the trench actually made the tank float a little bit, so they knew that they were getting to an area in which they could rotate it, get to the liquid line, and you can see here where they finally used the same excavator to pull it out. And then they injected it with water. The gas obviously took care of itself, going to now vapor. They were able to burn the rest of it off until they got just water. And real quick, it was a job well done. The guys were thinking on their feet, and hats off to Derek and those guys. I'm going to say it, A shift, unfortunately, but
yeah, A shift.
They did a good job, even though they're not C shifters. They did a good job, and it was good, and I appreciate him for sharing it. We shared it on Hazmat Nation. If you guys want to read it a little bit more depth, we've got the article on hazmatnation.com.
I have a question on that.
He's on here. Lay it on him.
Yeah, I was first of all stoked because yes, I saw that on Hazmat Nation, but the when is it? Flare-offs aren't, and Todd Burton can check my math on this, but at least in the LA area, the burn-offs are not a popular choice, and part of it's probably all of our AQMD rules. But at what decision point do you not just come up with a truck and offload it onto another truck? Is it because the product could be bad and nobody wants to take it, or I'm just curious? I think, and I can't remember in the article, but I think the valves were so shot that they were actually barely able to even flare it off. So, but I couldn't. Because there's no stupid questions, just stupid people asking questions, which is me right now. But I've had other stupid people ask me that one.
Yeah, and Derek, if you can chime in, certainly.
We actually, it's kind of fun, and I don't think he actually coordinated it at all, but we just put out a propane episode on the podcast, and we were going through the different ways of doing it. You can either do the flare off, which is the liquid or the vapor. You could do the water injection, which is very hard to do just right because you got to put the water in at the proper volume of extracting it with the expansion and blah blah. It's a lot of math. Or you could just basically put the thing underwater and burn the water.
Right.
So and I don't know what the valving looked like or anything like, but I don't know. And again, I don't know the size of it. But if they were able to fill the trench with water, and then just literally burn the water, that might have been another option for them to do as well. So, emergency as far as doing this thing. Again, hindsight's 50-50 and all 20/20 and all that crap, but it looked like it was successful. It looked like they knew what the hell they were doing.
Yeah.
It's not a fast one either way. I mean, that amount of propane, liquid or not, takes hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, and I think the article said they were there like 5 hours.
Yeah, it's forever.
So, and that was at 250.
But thanks again, Derek, for that. That was kind of awesome.
So, well, on the closing note, I know we're getting out of here and everything like that. Those of you, the 12, 15, 20 of you that were here, are feeling this whole thing out. I know there was some internet issues and whatnot and feedback. I think that's more of a operator thing because I'm home, I'm plugged in, and I saw no hiccups in this. So I'm wondering if the guy that was actually having some internet connectivity problems was a local thing. We're learning. If you find something, by all means, try to get back to us and tell us, because we're learning it. We'll put it on the group. But this seems to be the way we want to go. Gives a lot more ability to get things out there. We can now show pictures and we can show videos live on this thing. And the best thing is it cuts my production time in half because it goes straight to YouTube, which is very nice. So,
yes. And you saw the thing I sent over from our friends at Philly Fire saying that Blab is dead.
Yeah, I saw that. They don't have a winning business plan. It looks like.
Yeah.
So, well, whatever. We can, we'll try it. So we're gonna stop broadcasting at this point, and we're gonna stay around a little bit afterwards. Hopefully, everybody sticks around here and see what happens.
And closing remarks. But what happened to Mike?
I don't know.
He was at work. I'll throw some real quick closing remarks in. Just for those that are going to be in Baltimore, come see Phil and I, and Jay-Z is going to be there. Bobby's going to be there. Mike's going to be there. If you want to come by and chat, love to talk. See you. We have a booth 207, so we'll be there hanging out for a few days, and then we'll also be in Boston. I think a few days after that, right, Phil? On the 21st, 22nd, we're going to be up there in Boston doing some teaching. So,
yes,
we're all over the place.
Phil, what about you, baby?
I need to echo that. Bob's going to be there before me, but Baltimore, absolutely. I know that Bobby and Mike are both teaching classes. If they're not going to mention it, I am. And if you're new to this, tune into the podcast because I know he'll mention it, but I'm going to because I'm a big fan. Check us out on Hazmat Nation. I think Jason Rogers, who's on your screen at the bottom of the screen there, dressed up like, there we go, who is pretty much taking the lead on editorials and stuff on Hazmat Nation, and let's keep it going because it's been a great source. Yes, I'll be in Baltimore. Hope to see everybody. Saturday night's the big party night. Thanks to Jason Kerr, who's going to help us out at least with a location. And then yes, Bob and I are going to Boston. I plan on having a bear or a beer with Bob Lundgren.
A beer.
And,
Bob, we're going to have a beer with you,
It's a bear and a beer. And don't forget, if you're actually listening from California, Todd Burton's going to be up in San Francisco that same week teaching San Francisco Fire Department. And I think there's still room if you're a hazmat responder in the Bay Area of California. They're going to be doing some really good stuff, and they might even be using the HazSim. So back to you, Bobby, in the booth.
Hey, go with it, man. What do you got to plug? Anything coming up?
Yeah, we're coming to Baltimore, and absolutely, you will see me sporting the new Hazmat Nation T-shirt, and we will have some of those as giveaways and stuff. So I'll be watching the website for that soon. And apparently, my internet connection runs through Florida, which is Death's waiting room, and I've had the blue screen of death twice already, so this is totally on my end.
Wow.
I had a tropical storm blowing through here, bro, and I'm good.
Gotta be what it is. Gotta be what it is. I don't know.
Well,
Next week I'll be in my office
Yeah.
for
Well,
sure.
I'm Bobby from the HazmatGuys.com. We have a podcast you can find on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, whatever else. We actually are just doing one finishing up this Friday. Is going to be Propane 2, which is actually a pretty good one. Then we go into a long string of WMDs. I got tired of hearing the same crap about WMDs, so we totally twisted it all up. And the other day, actually, we just submitted for FDIC, and we're doing something really different. Me and Mike are going to do the same class, and it's going to be we're investigating the gray area. We're gonna go into that whole how do you do it? It's like breaking open the Houdini bag and seeing how it's done. So it should be a really interesting one, out there. But that's about it.
One thing we got to add, Bobby, we talked about earlier is guys that are listening here. If you hit the +1,
yes.
Right, Bobby? If you hit the +1, then you will get notified when we're starting our show live. Is that right?
Absolutely. If you don't see us, if you find us at THMG, which is the Hazmat Guys, and then Nation spelt out, so it's THMGNation @gmail.com. If you find us on Gmail, you will, or Google, +1 us, and you will be notified of everything. That's how we are going to be putting everything up as for now. So, with that being said, be sure to catch us this week, next week, and every other week, Tuesdays, 9:15 Eastern Standard Time on our new venue, Google Hangouts. We'll also be producing a podcast version of this, so you can find us on iTunes under the Hazmat Guys Nation. If you go into iTunes and go a little search for that, or you can go to my website, or actually the Hazmat Nation. You can find that all over there, and we'll be posting the YouTube as soon as we hit stop. I think it basically uploads right to YouTube. And you can
That's sweet.
So, thank you everybody for coming out and listening.
Salute.